Wow, I almost felt like that applause was for me. But hey, thanks for being here. My name's Dan. We're gonna start with a little music. This is a song that a friend of ours wrote. It's called "Hey America." 41 years, got a few friends I can trust. Got a couple more, baby, but we don't talk that much. Got a woman, my God, she's the best I've ever seen. She keeps me rolling like an 18-wheel machine. I'm on the road. I'm rolling on. Yeah, I'm on the road. Hey, America, I'm looking for a sign. Hey, America, just a little sign of life. Hey, America, we're walking by faith, not by sight. Driving through the mountains in the middle of the night. There's a rain coming down, but I think I see our light. Hey, America, hey, America, hey, America. I'm on the road. I'm rolling on. I'm on the road. I'm rolling on. Oh, I'm on the road. Hey, America, I'm looking for a sign. Hey, America, just a little sign of life. Hey, America, oh, we're walking by faith and not by sight. Driving through the mountains in the middle of the night. There's a rain coming down, but I think I see our light. Hey, America, hey, America, hey, America.
Hey, y'all, we are so glad to be here. I got to tell you, this is Vote Common Good. We love it when we have a chance to come out here to the Pittsburgh area, and we certainly love it when we have a privilege of coming here to this beautiful park. We've been here a couple of times, and it feels not like, oh, we've been here before. It feels like that day when you get to have your favorite dessert on your birthday. And you're back here with all your good friends. We're so proud to be here with Congressman Chris DeLuzio because he's going to be reelected to Congress. And we're so proud to be here with Catholics for Harris because Kamala Harris is going to be voted into office on Tuesday. And we're so glad to be here with all of you people because we know how important the city of Pittsburgh is and this area, and we know how important Pennsylvania is. You already know this. We know this. This is the swingiest state. You're in the swingiest district, in the swingiest election with the most on the line. So swingers, it's time to turn out on Tuesdays and to make this work. Now, Rob is shaking his head because he doesn't think that swingers is a funny joke. I think that we know that what's going to happen is going to swing a door. You all might think, well, you just got a small little group of people all the time. But here's what we know, and everybody who's running for office and has never won knows this. Small hinges open really big doors. And you're going to hook onto a big door, and that door is going to swing open. And you're going to be swinging something open for a whole lot of people who don't even have the comfortability or privilege of being outside about their vote. Do you know how true this is? There's a lot of people who know how high the pressure can be if they say who they're voting for. At their work, they're not comfortable telling their boss or their coworkers. So they're going to go into that voting booth and be quiet about who they're voting for. They're not comfortable putting a sign in the front of their house because they might live with somebody who disagrees with them. We were over in Atlanta and saw something so unusual, something I wish we could see more often, frankly, and that was a big, beautiful house with a pink sign that said Kamala Harris for president and a blue sign that said Donald Trump for president. Now, wouldn't that be nice? Because you know what? No matter who wins this election, we're going to all live together. Whether you vote for Donald Trump, whether you vote for RFK Jr., whether you write in some of your own candidate, we're all in this country together. Because when we say democracy for all, we mean for all. And there's not a lot of people running for Congress and running for president who understand this. That's why we're proud to stand with Chris and we're proud to stand with Kamala Harris. Because we know these are people who are not making this about voting for them means you love America, and if you vote differently, you don't love America. Now, there's a lot of people who feel this pain. So we put together a little ad. I just want to run it for you. You might recognize this voice. This is, well, there we go, Dan. That was really a missed, the missed timer. We did a little ad with Julia Roberts yesterday that came out on Monday. I don't know, did anybody have a chance to hear that? Julia Roberts reminding people. Let me tell you about this little ad. This little ad's Julia Roberts' voice saying, when you walk into that voting booth, what happens in the voting booth can stay in the voting booth. Because there's women in that ad, just like the one that was voiced by George Clooney, with men walking into the voting booth with the same message. What happens in the voting booth stays in the voting booth because people aren't always comfortable sharing who they're going to vote for. But even though what happens in the voting booth can stay private, the implications about what happens in that voting booth is going to spread all over the country. And that's going to happen right here. So we're so proud that you're here. We want to be part of this work with you. We think it matters that people stand up, especially people of faith, because as we travel around in this bus, with faith, hope, and love, supporting democracy for all, we have people running up to us at times. And then they get a little closer after reading Faith, Hope, and Love, and they see supporting democracy for all. And as one man over in Eau Claire, Wisconsin said as he got about 15 feet away, he said, "Oh, I thought you were with the good guys," because he thought Republicans own faith. He thought Republicans own hope. He thought only one political party is full of love. And we reminded him that people of good conscience and people of good faith have been voting for Democrats the whole time. But I got to tell you, to a lot of people, that is news. That is news. I don't know why a little group like ours gets in Rolling Stone magazine 2 weeks ago with an embedded reporter. You know why? Not because we're a big deal, but because you're a big deal. Because they want to tell the rest of the country that there are people of good conscience and people of good faith who are going to vote for Democrats. Because so many people think it only goes one way. Your story is a big story. So we want you to share it. In fact, we're sharing this live stream right now. This is being live streamed. If you have friends or family members that would like to see this, send them over right now. Send them a text. Pull your phone out in a minute. Send a text to your friend or family member and tell them to go to YouTube or to Vote Common Good on Facebook or on Twitter or any of those places and to follow what we're doing, and they can be part of this event, because sometimes people in the privacy of their own phone or the privacy of their own home will say and do something that they wouldn't be willing to do in public. That means a lot to us. But it's time for us to raise our voice and to speak up. So you're going to hear from Genesis B in a moment. Then you're going to hear from the congressman. Then you're going to hear a little bit more encouragement, because we want you to know that you're part of something that we think really matters. So my name is Doug, but I want to introduce now the person who we refer to as the poet laureate of Vote Common Good, and that is Genesis B.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. How many of y'all were with us in 2020 who welcomed us here? You remember it was a big crowd kind of in opposition yelling at us from the stage, off the stage? So it's really interesting to be here, and it's like a quiet crowd who's just like ready to listen and not going to say anything bad while I'm speaking. So thank you so much for being here. My name's Genesis B, and I come from a very beautiful state called Mississippi. Anybody ever been? Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and I've been around the world. And nothing beats a Mississippi sunset. Nothing. As beautiful as my state is, it has still some issues that it's trying to overcome. Deep-rooted racism, deep-rooted misogyny, homophobia, and such. And me growing up as a kid, you know, I had to navigate these systems and survive them as best I can and thrive and not internalize them, to know that, you know, I'm special and my potential is limited. It's a hard thing to hold on to as a child, but I just wanted to leave. I said, if I could just escape Mississippi, I can escape the racism. I can escape the misogyny and the homophobia. Escape it all. And then I left. And I quickly realized that Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation. Police exoneration, mass incarceration. Black and brown bodies, a commodity. Mothers separated from babies, border policy. It's like that White House is painted in the Klan's ideology in our leadership, exploiting white poverty. Think about it. Keeping us separate and divided, gay versus straight, white versus black, based off of fear and far from the facts. See, I hail from a state called the mighty Mississippi. My state flag held the stars and bars, praising a brutal history. It flew in front of schools and in my judge's court, sending a clear message to us that our lives are not important. See, my dad was only 5 when the Klan drive by, bust bullets into his house with 6 children inside. On the back of the truck, a Confederate flag flying high. And these are the truths that some choose to deny. See, Mississippi, like America, eats your child and mine. The white supremacist lie is a prison of their own design. Some have forfeited their humanity in order to deny mine. Because supremacy is a lie, but some have accepted it. A Confederate curse they inherited. Bigotry is blinding, and their fear of the other has blocked their own blessings from their sisters and brothers. See, outrage, fatigue, I'm screaming, I can't breathe. From the top, it trickles down. From the judges to police. Because the illusion of freedom is far more dangerous than any jail cell or cramped cages. I said, the illusion of freedom is far more dangerous than any jail cell or cramped cages. Yes, Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation, where cowards replace white sheets with fake avatars, repeating their parents' folklore, tooth fairy, Santa Claus. The history's whitewashed. Google black codes and bylaws. In the comment section, sound off, sound off. Lord, they sound off, don't they? Call me a nigga, a bitch, or a dyke. You call me whatever you like. I've been through worse in this fight, and the hatred in your words just proves that I'm right. Because Mississippi is a microcosm of a country that always needed me but never wanted me. My melanin and skin is a sin? Sentence to build your economy? No. But they pack the prisons, fill the quota, make us felons, suppress the voters. Travel bans and deportation, killer cops, no resignation. Just federal indictments and mock trials. See, my heart bleeds as that billboard reads, make America white again, as my favorite rapper concedes. Kanye. Making me question everything that I believe. But still, I love America. I do. Because I have hope. Some choose to jump ship, and some steer the boat. See, I know that love and humanity lives in the smile of every child, in the heart of every kid. So be brave enough to break the curse. We need you at the polls, out in droves, fighting against the bigots you oppose. Study law. Run for office. Make a call. Write your Congress. Use your voice and choose a march. Malcolm's gone. Grab the torch. Read a book. Write a rap. Just speak with truth and deal with facts, please. Alt-right affiliation of Trump's administration, Confederate infiltration, neo-Nazi showing faces. just fueling the fear and the hatred while expanding their corporations? Do you see now how Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation? I'm Genesis B, y'all. Thank you. Give it up for Rob, my brother Rob.
Thank you, Genesis. Hey, everybody, I'm Rob Ryerson. I'm a pastor from Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. If you are like folks that we have met all over the country as we have traveled to Georgia and North Carolina and Arizona, we've been in Wisconsin and Michigan and last night in Erie, Pennsylvania. As we've been all over the country, I have talked with folks who are nervous. And I don't know, a couple of days out, if you're feeling a little nervous today, if you're feeling a little nervous, I thought I would tell you a story. The story comes from the movie Monsters, Inc. You remember Monsters, Inc.? Monsters, Inc. is a story about a factory called Monsters Incorporated, and the factory runs on power or energy that is produced by the screams of children. They convert the screams of children into power, and so they send monsters out into kids' bedrooms at night to scare them and collect their screams to power the factory. There's one monster who ends up in the bedroom of a little girl named Boo, but Boo doesn't find the monster scary, she finds him funny. And instead of screaming, she laughs at him, or laughs with him. And what they find out at the end of the movie is that the laughter of the children is actually more powerful than their screams. Joy is more powerful than fear. Our politics in America has been dominated by fear for a long time, hasn't it? We've been scared about what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen to our country, to our democracy, what's going to happen to our planet. And that fear has been something that has energized us, powered us, motivated us. But it's not strong enough to keep us going. I think one of the things that we've learned in the last 100 days is that joy and hope and optimism is much more powerful and energizing than the fear is. And one of the great things about Kamala Harris being at the top of the ticket and giving us all the opportunity to support her is the joy, the laughter that she's brought, the hope and the optimism that's come along with that. So next couple of days, you are going to be tempted to let the nervousness build, to let the fear build, to let the anxiety build. And I just want to encourage you to remember that that's not where the power is. The power is in the joy and the hope and the optimism. Kamala Harris has taught us that it's great candidates that bring that kind of joy and hope and optimism. We travel around the country. We ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. We also ask people that are running for office to use the common good as their governing criteria if they're elected. A couple of years ago, we had this idea of, hey, what if we, instead of endorsing candidates, what if we created a little program called Candidates for Common Good, where we ask candidates who are running for office if they will endorse the common good. Instead of us endorsing them, how about a candidate saying, I'm going to endorse the common good. I'm going to use the common good as my governing criteria. And since we launched this little program in 2022, we've had over 500 candidates running for office around the country, from school board candidates to folks running for the United States Senate, up and down the ballot. We have candidates for common good. And the reason I tell you about all this is because there was one person who was the very first candidate for common good, the very first person to respond to that invitation to endorse the common good, the very first person to say, I'm on board with this, the very first person to do that in 2022 is Chris DeLuzio. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, your Congressman, Chris DeLuzio.
Thank you, Rob. How you feeling, guys? Pretty good? A little nervous at the end? That's okay. That means we got something in this, right? There's a lot at stake. It's great to be here with Vote Common Good. It's great to be here with Catholics for Harris Walls. You heard from Rob about the common good, right? It's not just the name of this organization. It's a belief, a set of values. And yes, I talked about it from the very first stump speech I gave because to me, it grounded the set of political values that I take to this job, that I learned in the Catholic Church, that I learned in my time in uniform, that we are all in a thing that is bigger than ourselves, right? That we are stronger together, that we serve others. That's a fundamental worldview that sounds familiar to all of us, doesn't it? It's not some new half-baked thing, right? It's something we know. Doug talked about faith, hope, and love, and no one has a monopoly on that. I'm going to go to Mass tomorrow, and I suspect others will too. And you know what you're going to hear about? You're going to hear about those things, right? You're going to hear about serving others, not dividing us apart. You're going to hear about doing things for the least among us, not greed and hoarding wealth and power. You're going to hear about service and good acts and good deeds. That's something fundamentally different than what we are up against on Tuesday. And no one has a monopoly on faith, hope, and love. No one has a monopoly on that flag. I talk about this place. We all know we have long answered the call to service in this country around here. I have a hard time imagining any home around here doesn't have someone in some way who has served. Because our region, we are a people who are proud of this country. We are proud of our service. No one has a monopoly on this flag. No one has a monopoly on loving this country. And I know deep in my bones that it is not patriotic to do the things I've seen the folks on the far right do. To attack women's freedom, to attack workers and union rights, to let our infrastructure crumble, to try to overthrow our government and beat up cops at the Capitol on January 6th, to rip our Constitution to shreds. Does any of that feel patriotic to you? It isn't. And so I come back to this set of values, and I talk about the common good as a philosophy that I believe deeply in. Because it speaks to something, and it probably sounds familiar to something you probably heard at Mass, around a set of values and beliefs that we're all in this thing together. And I say this too. I spend a lot of time in my job in rooms with Democrats and Republicans and independents and everybody in between. Most people are good, decent, patriotic people. They think you play hard, you work by the rule, or you work hard, you play by the rules. You should have a shot at the American dream. They want our government to be strong. They want our democracy to be healthy. And so folks ask me, am I worried about Tuesday? Am I optimistic? Am I nervous? I feel great because I know that we will hold the line for this country of ours on Tuesday, that we're going to do the work between now and then to win and have this country be strong. Now, I'm going to do my part between now and then. I know I'm not alone in that. And I usually say a version of what I'll tell you guys right now. When I'm asking folks to help me or anyone else, the inclination is to say, thanks, help me win. That's not the point. It's the person to your left or to your right, your family members, your neighbors, the people you may not even like that much. Their dignity and their freedom matter a lot too. And that is who we are doing this thing for. And it ties back to this idea of the common good. So do you feel that? Do you feel the patriotism in that? That's it. And with that, I know that we will win. So thank you so much. I think we will, ma'am. Is she right or are we right? What do you guys think? I think so, too. God bless. Thanks, guys. Let's go win this thing.
And that's what democracy sounds like. People disagreeing, but, having a nice day at the park anyway. Well, in 2016, 81% of white evangelicals voted for a man that looked nothing like Jesus. And this song is called Hymn for the 81%. It could just as easily be called him for the 60% because 60% of white Catholics voted for Donald Trump as well. And I know that that threw me for a loop, that the people from my faith tradition would vote for this guy. And so this is a bit of my story. Maybe it's a bit of your story as well. It goes like this. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning and evening service, knelt in tears at the foot of the rugged cross. You taught me every life is sacred, feed the hungry and clothe the naked. I learned from you the highest law is love. And I believed you when you said I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. And I assumed you'd do the same. So imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies, and I looked to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence, or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. See, your fear turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. And you weaponized religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. And you said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Come home, you're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home, come home, you're better than this. I used to think you were better than this. Come home, come home. Oh, maybe I was too naive, or I just didn't want to see that there's always been a little poison in the well. Our churches sit on stolen land, a nation built by stolen hands, and we use the Bible to justify it all. Yeah, from slavery and segregation to mass incarceration. This is who we are, but not who we have to be. There's a lot of work to do to pull up the evil by the roots, but repentance has to come before there's peace. You said to love the lost, trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth. Well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome, justice rule down. May love overcome, justice rule down. May love overcome, justice rule down. May love overcome and justice roll down. Hey, thank you so much. And now I believe I'm gonna invite my friend Denise to the stage. Sign the bus! Sign the bus!
Hello. Not a bad opening act. These guys, a congressman signing a bus. I am Denise Murphy McGraw, the national co-chair of Catholics Vote Common Good. And I am joined here today by many of you who have been involved in the Catholics Vote Common Good movement for a long time now. You used to call yourselves different names. We called ourselves Catholics for Biden. We're clearly Catholics for Harris Walls. I am joined here by one of our local leaders and somebody who's quickly become one of my dearest, dearest friends, Gretchen. I think I could do this. Okay. Hi. We're going dancing in a little while, as you can tell.
Yes.
My
So,
girl.
thank you, Denise. So, I'm Gretchen Jeserich, and I have a stress fracture. And so, prayers are welcome on Monday when I have my follow-up visit, because I would love to not be using this, and I would love to be running again. I'm here also on behalf of Kevin Hayes. Many of you know Kevin and love him, and he has really been the driving force behind Catholics Vote Common Good here in Western PA at least, and is the chair also in Pennsylvania. And I just want to really recognize and welcome everyone here, all people of faith from the tour, from the region. But also I want to just give a real shout out on my behalf and Kevin's to all the people who've worked so hard. Postcards, yard signs, you've funded billboards, y'all, that we now have in every corner of this great state. Yes. Pittsburgh, we've got 2, one in Erie, and a couple of great ones in Philadelphia. So just on behalf of Kevin and the whole group, I want to thank you all for your great work. And we'll go to Mass tonight or tomorrow, and we are going to hear that reading that Chris talked about. That's about honor the Lord our God first and love our neighbors as ourselves. So, common good. Amen. Bye, y'all.
She's from southern Pennsylvania with that y'all. So she's running off to Mass. I'm going to go join her in a minute, but I did want to thank all of you for being so supportive. As Gretchen said, in Pennsylvania, our national organization has really hit it out of the park, thanks to many of you. We have been able to do tens of thousands of postcards. We've been able to do billboards. Many of you have written letters to the editor to take on very important topics. I'm talking to you, Jim Sizemore. We've been able to do a lot of things in a very short period of time. What we've done here, we have replicated in the Philly area. And we have gotten people very organized and energized there. And I have spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. And Pennsylvania is not alone. You know the other battleground states. You could say it with me. Michigan. In Michigan, we have billboards. We have postcards. We have nuns who are doing all kinds of things. We have very aggressive, those nuns, God bless them, those nuns. And they're doing everything they said, and I can tell because I get these insane, crazy emails telling me I'm, going to hell and I'm not a real Catholic. And I always know that a batch of postcards have hit. And it's the best thing. It's the best thing. People say, are you nervous? No, I know everybody's out there doing the work. And so Michigan, we've got billboards in Lansing. We've got billboards in Detroit. As I said, we've got the nuns out. We've got the Catholic colleges out in the Philly area and the Detroit area. Young people, we have an ad. It does not star Julia Roberts or George Clooney, but it stars a young Catholic talking to other young Catholics about, being confident and being prepared and being ready to roll. The campaign has been enormously supportive of us as we have been of them. My good friend Chris is here. Alex Nason, who heads up the entire Catholic effort, is here today and has been just incredibly supportive of all the work we've been doing. And that work continues into Wisconsin. It's been tough being a Wisconsinite, especially in Milwaukee. They had the Republican National Convention there. Many of us were there to be supportive of the community there and give them a way to kind of express their feelings about having that go on in their city. You haven't lived till you've seen the Billboard game in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Holy moly. I've never seen anything like it, and they are tough. But we're holding our own there as well. I'll end just by saying I sort of know we're getting through. Maybe not to everybody, but we are definitely getting through. We're leaving Erie yesterday, and I have to get gas. Alex and I are in the car together. I have to get gas, and a woman comes out because she sees my Catholics for Harris Walls sticker on my jacket. And so she's talking to me. She works at the gas station, and she said, "It's like the sign says, vote your conscience." That's our billboard. That sign she was referring to is our billboard. So people are seeing it. They're sort of getting the message. It's okay. We know people are going to tell you no. We know people are going to tell you you're not a good Catholic. But I don't know. I'll put Chris DeLuzio up against any other Catholics I know, and Kevin Hayes and all of you. So we know we're doing the right thing. We know we're with the good guys. We know we're with the people who truly are living Catholic social justice teaching and the Beatitudes and all the things that many of us grew up learning, just like the congressman said. And we're going to keep going. So thank you all very, very much. You want this in? You're going to hold your, right? Thank you. All righty. Next up.
Well, hey, everyone. My name is Christy, and I'm here today from Michigan, and I'm a mother of 4, and I have some things to say about what's going on. Yeah. Well, I was raised in Holland, Michigan, a conservative, evangelical, Republican, white, middle-class town. And I was surrounded by really good people. These are the people that instilled in me values like honesty, respect, kindness, truth, empathy, hospitality, and generosity. Well, after college, I went to Washington, D.C. and worked for a Republican on Capitol Hill. And that experience eventually compelled me to seminary. After seminary, my husband and I began planting churches around the country, and after a couple decades out, we moved back to my hometown, back to where the good people of West Michigan lived. And in 2016, shortly after we moved back, many of those good people in my hometown supported Donald Trump for president, boldly and proudly. In fact, I had never seen anything like it before. And we struggled to know how to explain this to our kids. It was truly baffling. It was hard to explain to these kids why so many good people of faith supported a man who celebrates the strength of dictators and calls the compassionate weak, a man who mocks the disabled, a man who seeks intentionally cruel border policies, a man who has assaulted women, a man who spews filth and lies like it's a full-time job, a man who undermines democracy in broad daylight, who supports pillaging the planet for the profits of a few of his friends at the expense of the whole world, a man who continually disparages women, people of color, immigrants, Democrats, those struggling to make ends meet, and even every single Republican who doesn't get fully on board with him. Well, none of it sat right with me. Our faith community in Holland began joining with other faith communities across denominations, even across religions. And we began together to wake up. Together we began to stand up, and together we began to speak up for a more just and right world. So we began, for the first time in our quiet little town, we began to hold rallies and protests and marches. We began writing our members of Congress and getting involved in advocacy work. My husband even ran for U.S. Congress. We were not going to be quiet. As people of faith, we were not. And together, we're again coming together to say enough. The Republican Party has strayed so far from the core and foundation of its very own values. It's become something unrecognizable and unconscionable. In 2020, the people of faith in my hometown made the common good their voting criteria, and in that year, we flipped our city from red to blue. No one thought this could be done. And in 2024, people of faith all over this country are snapping awake. We're seeing it as we drive around. This movement to reclaim our fundamental values is growing. We're all together standing up to say enough. We're sick and tired of the normalization of lies and slander. We want to normalize truth and kindness again. We're ready to replace fear-based narratives with hopeful stories. Rather than continuing to oppress the voices that have historically been kept away from the tables of dialogue and decision, we want to elevate those voices. We're determined to respond to all the hatred with love. We want to declare what God declares and say that immigrants are a blessing, not a burden. Yeah. You know, people ask me as we travel the country in these buses, how could you, as a mother of 4, leave those kids and take off around the country? Well, I do this for my kids. That's right. And I do it for your kids. And I'm doing it for everyone who comes after them. You know, we don't know what the outcome of the election is going to be, but whatever happens in November, I want my kids to see and to know that we are sticking with our values and that together people of faith will continue working towards the common good regardless of the outcome. Together, we must persist in building a world where everyone has an opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
On 9/11, Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airplanes and deliberately crashed 2 of the planes into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center. The crashes created a massive fireball, leaving a thick gray plume of smoke over New York City. The Twin Towers collapsed, and people outside ran in fear for their lives. The third hijacked plane was crashed into the side of the Pentagon and created a wide and burning gash. And after learning about the other attacks, passengers on the fourth hijacked plane, Flight 93, bravely fought back and crashed the plane into an open field in western Pennsylvania, about 20 minutes by air from Washington, D.C. The 9/11 attacks killed 2,977 people and would become the deadliest terrorist attack from a foreign adversary on U.S. soil. I remember hearing the news at work that morning, and after arriving at home later that afternoon, watching the events unfold on my television. The scenes of mass devastation, confusion, and loss resembled a war zone and overwhelmed me with such anger and grief that I wept uncontrollably while beating the air with my fists. It would be a day to never forget, not just because of these overwhelming emotions, but also because of my growing obligation towards service to country and a widening sense of love for country. Because of 9/11, I would enlist in the military. So standing in a room with a handful of young men and women, I prepared to take the military's oath of enlistment. A sergeant called us to attention, directed us to raise our right hand and to repeat after him. I, Nick Brock, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. It was at that moment that I had committed my whole self to protect and defend not just a particular branch of service, not the flag, not the country, and not even the president, but rather to the Constitution, which symbolized all of these things. You see, friends, I was now a part of something much larger than just myself. Indeed, so help me God. I would serve under that oath for 10 years in the United States Air Force and afterward be honorably discharged. 6 years after that, however, I would be reminded of the solemnity from my oath on January 6, 2021. On January 6, former President Trump summoned a violent mob to march on the U.S. Capitol in support of his wholly fabricated charge that the 2020 presidential election had been stolen from him. 2,500 people overran police barricades, beat, bloodied, and tased police officers. They smashed through windows, they smashed through doors, and they ran through the halls of Congress threatening to hang Mike Pence, execute the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and do God knows what to other office holders. 114 law enforcement officers were injured, and 7 people died as a result of the violent attack. The insurrection of January 6 was an unprecedented domestic terrorist attack on U.S. soil, full stop. I remember hearing the news while sitting at my dining room table and watching the scene unfold on my laptop, and abruptly standing up to pace my living room with tears of anger and grief streaming down my cheeks. My visceral reaction was reminiscent of 9/11 as I recalled my oath. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. January 6th would be another day to never forget, not just because the seat of our democracy was desecrated, but because of this simple yet breathtaking fact. Former President Trump and I, both worlds apart from each other in every sense of the word, had one thing in common. One: to defend the Constitution of the United States to our best abilities. Yet I was the one who bore true faith and allegiance to the same and left my post honorably. You see, January 6th was more than just a problem, or that former President Trump had just simply left the White House, as vice presidential candidate and military veteran J.D. Vance would have us all believe. No, To the contrary, former President Trump attempted to overturn the election results in order to seize power illegally and remain in office. And when he had mobilized his insurrectionist mob to the Capitol, he watched the attack on television and refused for more than 3 hours to tell the insurrectionists to go home. And after they had mobilized and damaged the Capitol to the tune of nearly $3 million, Trump chose to address his insurrectionist mob with a wink and nod of approval, saying, "We love you. We think you're very special." Trump violated his oath to the Constitution and brought dishonor to thousands of military veterans around the globe who remained steadfast to their oath of enlistment, and most unequivocally to the countless men and women who gave their lives in service of that very cause. My fellow Americans, we must choose in this election to honor those who give everything and who gave everything in support of American freedom and democracy. This is our obligation and the cause of our time. We know full well that the first 3 words of the original handwritten and signed Constitution makes this obligation clear, declaring from the outset, "We the people," with oversized black lettering that looms large over all the rest. In the same way, we must continue to place an oversized and emboldened obligation to vote for political leaders that will do the same. In order to form a more perfect union, we, the people, depend on the goodwill of our leaders and their dedication to duty to ensure the survival of our republic. My fellow Americans, is this not our obligation and the cause of our time? If your answer is an overwhelming and heart-expanding yes, will you stand with me right here and right now in this place? Will you stand with me? Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Will you stand with me and say yes to support and defend the Constitution of the United States? Yes. Will you stand with me and say yes to ensure the survival of our republic with your vote? And will you stand with me and say yes to support democracy for all with all of your faith, with all of your hope, and with all of your love, not only through Election Day, but on each and every day? Yes. My name is Nick Brock. I'm a United States Air Force veteran, and I do solemnly swear that I will continue to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. So help me God.
Thank you, Nick Brock. Friends, we're here because we want to stand with you. And now, we're about to wrap up, but we want to be clear about a couple things. We are not here to faith, hope, love you, and leave you. We want to take you with us. Now, there's a couple of ways that could happen. You could follow us tomorrow where we're going to be over in Harrisburg. Maybe you want to take a little trip down to the state capitol. We're going to be on those Capitol steps at 3 o'clock, and we have a little campaign that we're running there called Kamala for Common Good. And we're going to unfurl a 30-foot banner across the steps and hold a rally like this. So if you have friends or family in the Harrisburg area, if you want to come down yourself, tag along with us. Join the little caravan of Common Good over to Harrisburg. Or maybe you want to find yourself down in Philadelphia on Monday morning at 10 a.m. where Representative Scanlon is going to be at a rally just like this that we're doing with her. Or maybe you want to be up at Hershey in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. We're going to go back up to Hershey at 3 at the corner of Cocoa and Chocolate because they're just so doggone cute over there in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Or maybe tomorrow night, or Monday night, you're going to make your way back down to Philadelphia where the next president of the United States is going to be standing in front of the art museum and is going to be holding a rally, and we're going to be there. So maybe you want to join us in those ways. Now, normally we get to say to people in this little part, travel with us to all over the country, all the places we're going, and finish up with us in Pennsylvania, because we've been reminding people all over the country how important Pennsylvania is, but you know that. So maybe you want to join us, or maybe you want to go door to door to your neighbors, or maybe you want to stay home and encourage your friends, or maybe you want to light a candle or say a prayer. Whatever it is you're going to do, please feel like you're doing it with us. It's fun to be on the bus. It's good to be on the bus. It's heart-filling to be on the bus. But the most important thing is not traveling on the buses. It's meeting with the people. It's being with you all, knowing that all over the country we're drawing together a fabric of people. So we want to take you with us. Maybe you can follow us, but maybe not. Maybe you could just do as a congressman did and come and put your name on the bus. Now, that's fun for you. It's fun for us. But honestly, it means a lot for us when we walk by and see signatures on the bus, both sides, all of them. We've been all over the country. We started signing that bus on the 17th of January in North Carolina. We've been traveling that bus all over the country. So we'd love you to feel like you're part of that community. Some of the names have gotten washed off, and then some have been replaced. But people are part of this movement all over the country, so we'd love for you to feel like you're part of it too. Now, if you want to help us finish this out, if you want to help us put a little fuel in these tanks, we'd love for you to, because there are 4 things that push us around this country: faith, hope, love, and diesel. So maybe you want to be in the tank with us. Make any contribution over at the table, and you can do it in Venmo, you can do it with cash, you can do it with credit cards, you can do it with Bitcoin, or just take the marijuana straight to the table, because we all know what that Bitcoin's really all about. Take anything you've got and donate it over there at the table, and we'd love for you to feel like you're part of it. Then take a hat or take a shirt or take a button, or feel like you're part of this big community with us. And if you're somebody who says to yourself, just can't get myself to pay for fuel, you can fill the tanks that we call our bellies. So whether it's fuel in these vehicles or fuels in our bodies, that's where that money goes if you were to make a contribution. We'd love to have you feel like you're part of it. And most of all, would you take one of these faith, hope, and love signs home with you? I want to tell you a little story about these signs. 4 years ago, we were standing here, and I was standing right in that spot right there. We had just finished a rally, and there were a number of protesters here. Some of you may have been here, and they wanted us to understand their opinion about the pro-life and pro-choice issues. So we let them rally and rave and talk, and we engaged with them. And I spoke to a person. She was part of that group. And I said to her, ma'am, I know there's a lot of things that we might disagree about. But if you say you're pro-life, I think we could agree that we want to stop gun violence, that we want to make sure that children have enough support and care and food, that we want to make sure that we're not militarizing in other parts of the world and harming children, that we want to stop allowing our states to execute people under the guise of law and justice. And she said to me, no, I don't think any of that stuff has to do with being pro-life. And then she said, in fact, if any of you, and pointed at our Black Lives Matter signs, said if any of you or any of your Black Lives Matter loving friends came into my house without my permission, I'd shoot you with my gun myself. And then she pointed at the sign and said, but I do like those signs. Can I have one of those? Because they say faith not fear, hope not hate, love not lies. And I said to her, well, those are a $25 contribution. She walked over to her car, parked right over by that fire hydrant, got $25, came back to the table, which was sitting there, paid $25 and took the sign. You know why? Because she believes also that she's a person of faith. She thinks that we're people of fear. She thinks she's a person of hope, and we're people of hate. She thinks she's the person of love for all. We're the people that are picking winners and choosers, or winners and losers. So when you take one of these signs and you put it in your yard next to a Chris DeLuzio, next to a Kamala Harris sign, it says something to your neighbors. And all of a sudden, they're having to say to themselves, wonder who my neighbor is. I wonder who my friend is. I don't often see these stories coming together. And the one thing we have to do in this country, leaving here, is making sure that we understand each other a little more. It's not going to do us any good to tell some people to be quiet. We all need to wake up, speak up, stand up, and show what we've got. So I'd invite you to stand up right now if you're up for it. Walk up to this bus, put a little signature on there. Joel and Dan are going to serenade, or Joel's going to serenade you as you make your way to that bus, sign in that bus, and then take a picture of it. Send it to your friends or your family. If you've got a friend or family member who doesn't think faith, hope, and love go with being a Democrat, take a picture of you signing the bus, having signed it, and send it to them and say, faith, hope, and love, supporting democracy for all, and it starts spreading through the family text chains. So we'd encourage you to do that. So thanks for being here today. We're going to clean up for a while, and then we're going to find our way over to Harrisburg tomorrow. And thank you so much for being a part of all the good that you're part of. Thank you, Joel.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. In a world that keeps on pushing me around, oh, I'll stand my ground. and I won't back down. Well, I won't back down. Oh, I won't back down. In a world that keeps on dragging me down, stand my ground, and I